Hello there, it's Jaymz Bee. This is my podcast. It is Friday, May 17th, and if it isn't, that's okay. You can skip ahead about 8 minutes and you'll get right to the interview with the late, great Joe Hall. Joe Hall, coming up in just a moment. He called me and asked me to go to his house and interview him just before he died, and it was actually easy. We're old friends, and I really wanted to see him, and he was articulate, a little bit stoned from the painkillers, but it's a good interview, and I hope that you'll watch it. If it is May 17th, or in this week of May for you, I have some listings coming up. But first, as always, thank you to the people of Patreon who have been helping me out. I am a freelance artist doing what I can, and it really means a lot when people throw out $5, $10, $20. A couple of people do $50 a month. Whatever you can do, it really helps, and I appreciate it. I also want to thank Barbarian Steakhouse. Oh, it's delicious in there. Some of those people have been there 20, 30 years. This is the kind of old-fashioned steakhouse where everybody knows what they're doing. The service is beyond compare. Check it out, 7 Elm Street. Also, barberfinancial.com. I prefer the alphabet to numbers. I need guys like Paul Barber in my life to help me out. And if you need some help with your finances, talk to Paul Barber. Also, if you are a huge business and you want to maybe get some packages for your staff, well, he knows all about that stuff and I don't. So barberfinancial.com for that. And I also want to thank you for watching, because if nobody watches this, what's the point, right? Please share it with your friends. And now to the listings. Over at Lula Lounge tonight, Yoser Rodriguez is doing the early show. That's at 7 p.m. And then Marta Elena and Salsa Star. People will be dancing all night long. But go there early for the food. It's really good. Also, Michael Garrick and One Nation Rebels joined together with the Brazilian drum group T. Batu. And this is a tribute to the late, great Sean Mendoza. Now, I didn't know Sean very well, but I did see T. Batu at the Beaches Jazz Festival, and they are a ton of fun. So Hayden and Faye and Pato, a lot of people are going to be celebrating his memory, all of his friends and fans, and that is Sunday, Sunday at Lula Lounge. I should tell you, Thursday, it is sold out. It's a one-stop vocal jazz safari. This is a showcase I've been doing for Jazz FM. I've done over 30 of these. Every show features 24 singers, an all-star band, and it lasts 3 hours, 7 till 10 p.m. This one is totally sold out, and there's another one coming up in September. You basically donate large to Jazz FM, and this is a thank you gift. So if you want information on the One-Stop Vocal Jazz Safari, go to jazz.fm. And of course, if you want to know anything about Lula Lounge, go to lula.ca. Hughes Room Live. Tonight, Rob Tardik is playing. Not only is he a great guitar player, and he's won lots of awards for his smooth jazz recordings, but he also makes a good hot sauce. He gave me a jar of hot sauce once, and boy, it was delicious. But anyway, he had a CD called Bell, Balance, Energy, Laughter, and Love, and he'll be doing songs from that and all kinds of songs from his various recordings, and that's over at Hughes Room Live tonight. And then Saturday, Judy Collins. Remember Send in the Clowns? Remember her version of Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now? She's just incredible. Well, I kind of like this because tickets are $100, but she would rather play at Hughes Room to a bunch of people than to a huge theater, because this woman could play anywhere. She's super famous. In fact, the last tribute to her, called Born to Breed, tribute to Judy Collins, Leonard Cohen, Joan Baez, Dolly Parton, and more. So she's going to be there. She's got a matinee show, and then she's got a late night show, well, late night meaning 8:30. So that sounds good. And then Sunday, a folk and bluesgrass duo, Kathy Mink and Marcy Markser. These two women have put out 45 albums, and I'm a big fan of bluegrass. It is a lot of fun. They've got some interesting instruments, and award-winning duo coming up from the U.S. to Hughes Room. Tuesday, guitar maestro Martin Taylor. Wednesday, blues hero Anthony Gomes. He's a singer-songwriter guitarist. And Thursday, my buddy Blair Packham, he's hosting a Bob Dylan tribute. Ariana Gillis, I'm sure you've heard of her. If you haven't seen her live, you're going to be blown away. She's a young girl with a lot of talent, and she's been kicking it for many years. Paul James, Andrea Ramelow, swing, and a whole bunch of others. So there you go. Bob Dylan tribute Thursday, and all the listings at hughesroomlive.com. And then Home Smith Bar, Old Mill, Toronto. All the shows, 7:30 to 10:30. No cover, $20 minimum. Andrea Superstein is in from Vancouver. she's really fun. She's got a great voice. She's got some unique ideas, jazz, maybe a tiny bit of pop, but she's real good. Brian Blaine is bringing his blues there tomorrow night. And next Wednesday, Russ Little, one of the great trombone players of this country and just a sweet guy. You will love the energy coming out of this band on Wednesday. And Thursday, Adrian Ferrugia and Sophia Perlman have got together with Brad Good, great trumpeter, Neil Swainson on bass, and they'll usually have some surprise guests as well. So all that is at the Home Smith Bar at the Old Mill, Toronto. oldmilltoronto.com. Click on events and you'll get all the info. Jazz Bistro, Fernanda Cunha is there tonight. She is a Brazilian singer, and she's traveled all around North America. Bob Bruff is there on Sunday, and Bob Bruff, there's Adrian Ferrugia again, Artie Roth on bass, Terry Clark on drums. Bob Bruff, the beloved sax player. You might know him from Time Warp. You might know him from Jim Galloway's Wee Big Band, but you probably just know him as Bob Bruff because he's put out some remarkable albums. Songs like Sweet Jessica and Interior, they get played all the time on radio. Just love that guy. That's Sunday, 7 o'clock till 9:30, early show. And then Wednesday, Armenia Meets Cuba are back with Hilario Duran and the gang. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, The North. Now, this is a Juno Award-winning band. Mike Murley on the sax, David Braid on piano, and Scandinavian rhythm section, Johnny Ammon on bass, and Anders Morgensen on drums. And all that is at jazzbistro.ca. Finally, a couple of honorary mentions. The Rex Hotel, 17 bands between now and next week. William Sperandi, Victor Bateman, Mark Kelso, and more. And want to give a heads up to the Reservoir Lounge. Love those guys. That if you like jump blues, if you like funk and soul, if you want to like raise the roof and drink, gotta go to the Reservoir Lounge. And La Revolution, that's over in the Junction, and that's Le Petit Nouveau are there tonight. And in the next little while, Peter Hill, Julian Fouth. So the Rex, the Res, La Rev, they're all terrific places to go. And if you like swing dancing, check out swingtoronto.com for Dover Courthouse. I love Dover Courthouse. It's where people are happy, but they're not being ironic. They're actually happy. They're swing dancing, throwing each other up in the air. Some people don't know how to dance and they learn to dance. They have free dance lessons. Oh wait, $2 dance lessons. So swingtoronto.com if you want to go swing dancing. And now, serious, it's hard to go from swing dancing to Joe Hall, but Joe Hall was a great friend of mine, an amazing singer-songwriter. I called him the Frank Zappa of Canadian folk, but even that's stinting praise. I mean it as the highest praise, but he wrote beautiful ballads. So there's an event for him at the Transact Club tonight, and I hope you come down and see us if you get this in time. If you don't, go to YouTube and check out Joe Hall and the Continental Drift, and you will see some really fun stuff. And you'll hear some music, you'll see some videos. Joe Hall, I love the guy. So I'm going down there tonight. Tony Quarrington is the musical director. It'll be a who's who of folk singers, some jazz singers, some pop singers, but people who just love Joe, you're all welcome to come down. So I'm going to go to Joe Hall right now. And as I said, he was fading. He was on some painkillers. But he was irreverent and honest as always, as oldie Joe can be, so blunt and so honest. So here we go. We're going to go see Joe Hall. How do you feel today?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
I'm okay. Like I say, the diurnal system seems out of whack. Like I feel like I should be a couple of hours earlier.
But no pain?
There's no pain. I've been on narcotics for over a decade as a result of spinal stuff that I acquired.
Yeah.
The cancer as such is pain-free, but they're willing to. Do you have enough narcotics, Mr. Boink? No, maybe top it up a little bit.
Do they call you Mr. Boink, or is that just you writing?
That's what's on my because that's on my citizenship papers. That's what's on my OHIP.
What's that? What Hans-Joachim
Bunke.
Bunke.
Yeah.
So they call you Mr. Boink.
That's what they called me in high school. When they slugged me for being a dirty fucking crook.
Hmm.
And by God, we deserved it. I mean, how many races?
Well, I'm going to wait till I have you on where I can record you.
How many human races go out and try to conquer the world and fail, and then they don't wait a generation, they just go next one.
Right, twice in a row.
I mean, Germany's full of poets and, you know, musicians and, you know, artists of the highest caliber, and then they got these fucking knuckle dragging.
Yep. So you moved here from Germany?
Mm-hmm.
And how old you were? 5, 6?
5. We moved in 1952, I remember that. And I have some pictures from that time. And my mother, and we were close to Cologne, so we were close to the French border. And my mom wanted us to look as French as possible on our little natty beret.
Now, when you got here, you said you were teased a little bit because you were German and the war was over. When did you change your name to Joe Hall? When did you decide to do the name change?
Well, that was because when you know my mom wanted to come to Canada, and I think my dad was, you know, certainly wanted to come to Canada. He was a very bad man. In the overall scheme of things, not really a bad man. He was on a sub.
Mm-hmm.
They had a very bad reputation, but he didn't do any firing. As my maternal grandfather said, in World War I ran up, and I could see the other guys doing the same. We were all just shooting up into the fucking air.
Really? That sounds like a comedy
until
skit.
The trench warfare happened.
Right.
Until they settled into that eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. A terrible, terrible time.
So, you know, we come over here. Yeah, it astounds me that, you know, obviously the people had to be so desperate. I have a picture of a kid during the German inflation, the hyperinflation of the, I guess, the mid-30s, and he's standing next to a wheelbarrow with his sister, who's a little shorter than him, but the stacks of bills in the wheelbarrow are obviously 8 feet high, and that's for a loaf of bread.
Oh, no.
The other reason my dad didn't want to come to Canada was that he was very grateful. He was very grateful. When they heard the war was over, I love this story. They heard the war was over. He was in a small U-boat in the Baltic, and he was what they call the the flag man, the communications officer. He'd be the first guy out, and he'd be the last guy in. He said, you know, a few times I got to talk to him. I said, well, what did you do in the sub? I was a flag man. I'd go out and you know, do flag routines with other ships and other U-boats.
So that was a way of communicating without using any radio signals.
Yeah. No, they had not advanced that. Well, I'm sure they had, but no, they used
Well, it couldn't be
flags.
intercepted, probably. Yeah.
So he was, and because he was that generation between the two wars, there was no dairy products, so he had rickets, and really bad rickets, and just by happenstance, he was that he just fit perfectly on I don't know what those old German bikes or BMWs probably.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so he loved his motorcycle and he wanted to stay put.
Oh, so he just said he wanted to stay in Germany, not go back.
Yeah.
So was it just you and your mom?
Yeah. So it was just me and my mom, and we got here, and she fell in love with Charlie Hall, and I said, "God bless you, Charlie Hall. I love you for your." Hall is apparently the 7th most common name in the British Isles.
So you knew right away your name was going to be Joe Hall, not Joachim Hans Boink.
Hans Joachim Bönke.
Bönke. So you started singing really young, right?
Yeah, I was a choir boy from the age of 7. I always had a rehearsal looming,
Yeah.
of some kind. I really loved it. The church I went to, we lived in London,
Mm-hmm.
and Ontario.
Yeah.
And my mother was always a sucker for monarchy.
And you wrote your first composition. Was that a song for your mom?
Mother's Day.
Yeah. A Happy Mother's Day song.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah. But not too much to remember. It's all there in the title.
Right. You didn't get your
You
warped
don't
sense
mind
of
if I
humor that
smoke
early.
one of
No,
these?
not at all. You've earned it.
Yeah.
So you wrote a Mother's Day song that wasn't weird, probably. It was just a nice, heartfelt thing, right?
Yeah, with a major 7th.
And then when did you... So I assume that went over well. Your mom really liked that?
I guess, like I say,
There we go.
I happened to end up working in a delicatessen
Mm-hmm.
with a guy who was an incredible banjo player, and I liked the sound of that. And we had another friend who could sing really high.
So you're a teenager at this point?
Yeah. Well, it's in the code. I know I have a copy here somewhere. It's yeah. I came from the commercial part of the folk boom. I thought the Kingston Trio was, the top notch.
Yep.
I love the way they sing. Sorry.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, so that's me at 15,
Do-do-do.
and that's me with liver cancer.
Oh, my word. Here, holy cow. That's a
Not
great
shit,
idea.
eh?
It's a great idea, though.
Yeah, it is.
Going from one to
It
the
is.
other.
It is.
Uh-huh.
My friend Joe Stable, who's a local painter.
So you said you were into the Kingston Trio, and then you meet a kid with a banjo who's really good at it. So that's part of this. Is I'm trying to get to the idea of when you
being in a choir and knowing that you can make all these sounds happen. It's just it was the focus of my existence.
I'm curious how you got that first few songs, like your sense of humor in your lyrics, even ballads. There's almost always something clever or something Some double meaning in some of them?
Yeah. I don't know when exactly that came along, but I was, your very serious folky ballad writer till about, I'm trying to remember when. Yeah, I went out west, I came back, and all my old friends who were in Toronto, sat around, did some playing, and said, hey, you got a sense of humor. That was a good trip. And, I would say it came pretty early, 1970.
So your first record that didn't get released was, I think you said 72, 74, something like that? Was that Bob Ezrin?
Yeah, Ezrin, I was 22, that would have been 69.
So was there any weird sense of humor on that very first recording? Or was it...
They destroyed it,
Mm-hmm.
and I went along with it. I betrayed my band. That Ezrin said we can bring in really high-end players.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever heard of this? Getting somebody to stand on a kitchen chair so that they would sing sharper?
No, never heard of that.
That's one of Ezrin's tricks. He's a man I learned to loathe early.
And I'm sure a lot of people have made those mistakes when someone with money and talent, power comes up and says, hey, I'm going to make you a star. You just have to do exactly what I want.
Yeah.
So that one wasn't released. And then, I mean, from the first records I heard of yours, there was always this sense of humor.
Yeah. So then I went out west with my trio, as it was then, which was George Dobo, who is, as fine a guitar player as he is a piano player. He's no Tony Corrington on the guitar, but George and I played anywhere and everywhere, and we wandered all over the country.
And you still, the last two shows I saw of yours, you still play with George, and he still does engineering for you, right?
Yeah.
That is a long, how many years would that be then? Do you have any idea?
68.
68 years working with the same guy.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry. It was 1968 when it
68.
happened. Wow, amazing.
Yeah. Oh, no, and he refuses to play for anything more than travel.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually made him take some Christmas money this year.
And so he was with you for a long time. When did the Corrington brothers come into the scene?
Shortly thereafter, Tony did, and Marty and Paul had their own. And Marty Worthy, besides being a drummer, had an angelic voice, and was also a good guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
So he could cover all those bases. And I remember Tony and I, when we were just a trio, Tony, George, and me, going to see them play at some club in Jarvis Street, and they were doing a lot of Eagles covers, and I sat there and said, that's California cowboy shit. And I'll have to roughen them up, but they certainly can sing, and then they can certainly play, and if they want to play, and you think it's a good idea, I always had a democracy in the band. Always.
Wow, it was your songs, but you always took votes from people, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's the only way to do it. I mean, or that's a leftover from, hippy-dippy days.
It's respectful, and it keeps a happy band, right?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. For sure.
So, favorite clubs in Toronto that you played back in the day? Because I saw you at Albert's Hall, at the Isabella Hotel.
Yeah. That was probably our peak, about, late 70s. And I have this ridiculous story with Eric Andrews, who in various situations I've learned to despise over the years. I remember we were walking around Bloor Street because we were playing Albert's Hall, and I had torn jeans,
Mm-hmm.
and Eric Andrews said to me, "You better change those trousers."
Now, is this the manager of the club?
No,
Oh,
it's the booker.
okay.
The booker.
Yeah.
You're kidding, right? I mean, this is what everybody's going to be dressed like this in 20 minutes. Just wait and see.
Yeah, look at the audience. A dress code at Albert's Hall? I've never heard of such a thing. And then, of course, the Transac. You're home away from home in the last while.
Yeah, that was a decade and a half. I'd go down there every month.
I remember taking you, Scott B. and Kurt Swinghammer to North Bay to play the Parkview. Unbelievable triple bill.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I remember being vaguely conscious by the time we got there that I had consumed an entire quart of Glenfiddich or some such.
Yeah, but you were on fire on stage. It was a really, really good show.
Mm.
A fond memory.
How's life at Liberty Village? Is it still going, or is it gone?
It's gone, unfortunately.
That's too bad.
They redid the building so you can work there, but you can't sleep there. So all of the artists had to leave. And there's two that went back and used the place as a studio, but the magic's gone. That amazing concert you did at my place. That was so cozy. That building was special.
So nice. Yeah, it felt very good.
Like real commune. Now, I love your place here. This house is from the 1800s?
I would think so.
Yeah. And how many years have you lived in this house?
1988.
Is when you moved in?
Yeah.
You have how many kids?
5.
5 kids, just 2 moms, right?
3 moms.
3 moms. And you weren't married to all of them at the same time?
No. My eldest child, her mom was 27. I was 22 when she told me that I was a father. And I said, well, I don't know if I'm prepared for this. And so I left her, but I mean, it sounds typically, a male, a male behaving irresponsibly, but I knew that, her mother was a programs designer in the information technology, and I knew that, at that point, that was the top of the heap. She had a very good income the child would not want.
Right. And you were on tour, and you were touring.
And she made a stipulant that I not try to contact them, and that she would contact me at the appropriate, what she thought was appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I married Annie Greer, and we had my 2 other eldest kids. My eldest kids was Leslie, that was the woman's name.
Yeah.
The first one, her name is Chandra, and she has a thing for native men, so I have 2 Métis grandkids. Just spreading.
Grandpa Joe, yeah.
Opa Joe.
And then
so
2 boys, yeah.
I married Annie Greer. Actually, she proposed to me in July of, or summer of '72, And
She proposed to you.
yeah, she found out she was pregnant.
Ah.
And she said, "Will you marry me?" And I said, "You're the most beautiful thing I ever laid eyes on. Of course I will marry you."
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that. And that was good for 7 years, but I was also on the road, and being a young, I was making $300 a week. I thought I was fucking Elvis, and I could, fuck whoever.
This is 7 years and
I
2
was
boys.
Definitely amoral. No, a girl and a son.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah and Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she finally threw me over because of my philandering, broke my heart. Lived on Spadina across from Grossman's with my Czech buddy Joe.
Yeah.
And fell in love with Anna, and that was 40 years ago. And of course, the passion dissipates between 7 and 10 years. We've been together almost 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I get my half of the house, she gets her half of the house. Everything's fine. I do my share of the housework. I was well trained by my ma.
Oh, good. So, yeah, sharing a house all these years. And how many kids? 2? 2 with Anna. So that's 5 kids. And is it 5 kids and 2 grandkids?
Just had my third.
Yeah.
Sarah, my daughter, through Annie,
Mm-hmm.
found out that she was pregnant just as the relationship with the husband, the father, was falling apart. And being the kind of person she is, she decided to go ahead and have a kid. And so, yeah, that's my third.
Yeah.
I have the eldest son, which reminds me, I'm supposed to ask you. He wants a career in show business. Now, he is tall. He's Métis. He's very handsome. He looks like he's got Botox lips, even though he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He's incredibly handsome. And he has some talent, some musical talent. But he wants to be an old song and dance guy. And I wondered if you had any connections to anybody.
Does he live in Toronto?
No, they're in Vancouver.
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know many people out there. I get to Vancouver less than anywhere. Like, it's so funny. I go to LA and New York all the time, but Vancouver, there's no business that brings me out there.
Yeah.
But if he was visiting Toronto, I would absolutely show him around. And
okay, I'll keep that in mind.
yeah, if he would come into town to visit in the summer or something, then definitely something could happen.
Or Christmas.
Any other artistic sides in your family? I bet you a bunch of your kids play music or at least dabble in it.
Yeah, Morgan plays. And oddly enough, he comes like sort of at music the same way I did, if you don't count the fact that I was a church boy.
Yeah.
Wore hot pants every day, could never get molested. That's a Dylan Moran line. Do you know who he is?
No. It sounds like a joke my dad would say.
Yeah, he's a hilarious guy.
Did you grow up with religion?
Not really. My mother wanted me out of the house Sunday morning, taking my brothers to Sunday school so that she could get it on with her current boyfriend.
That's a good reason to have to go to Sunday school. But it wasn't forced upon you, and so.
No. But, the fact is I really enjoyed being in a choir. I fell in love with music then.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the stuff on the radio was good, too. But I really loved church music. The thing they say about the devil's tunes. Well, there's stuff in the Christian liturgy that is... They're good. They're good full chords. It's strong music.
Yeah. How many songs do you think you've written? I mean, honestly, I know over 200. I'm sure of it, right?
Yeah. Well, since 19... Well, if you don't count the Mother's Day, that was a one-off.
Yeah.
I'd say, let's see, we had this little trio where we modeled ourselves after the Kingston Trio. We called ourselves the Greenwood Trio. And you can't get more than that.
Yeah.
So, I think that's all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just, and the guys I was meeting at work, and he was a really good banjo player. He was a good musician, but he had the most incredible stage fright. There was, he's in London, Ontario, and there was a band called the Dixie Flyers that was a bluegrass group that was, I knew those guys from high school, and Willie P. played with them, and Willie and I got kind of tight over the years.
Willie P. Bennett, the great harmonica player and songwriter.
And songwriter.
Yeah.
And songwriter.
Now, did you write or did he write Full Moon and Welfare Checks?
Tony Quarrington.
Tony wrote that song?
Yes.
Tony is the most mysterious person. The amount of stuff he wrote that I'm still learning about this guy, and I've known him for decades.
Yeah. It's true.
So you had the banjo stage fright, right? This guy.
Yeah, so and every now and then there, I remember, especially this is in the late '70s when the Hamilton Festival of Friends was going strong, and so I remember the Dixie Flyers were supposed to be playing, and on the main stage, and I was excited about that. I actually hadn't made contact with Jack before the gig, so I was going to swarm him after his show.
Yeah.
And I went back, and like I say, I went to high school with two of the guys, worked in the meat market with the other guy, with the banjo player, and then they said, "Oh, Jack's got to have his pre-performance lie down, or he lies flat on the ground, and tries to calm himself."
Wow.
But,
did that continue when you were playing together on tour? Or did it?
Yeah, this is after we stopped. I left London, Ontario, and moved to Toronto and crashed out at friends' places.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Tony Quarrington, was he always also like jazz and folk? Was he always had those extra licks that most people wouldn't maybe equate with folk music?
Oh yeah.
And did you kind of write that way, or did he? I know he did a lot of arrangements, but I am assuming your compositions, some of them were maybe designed for that kind of music.
Perhaps. I knew that I could, throw in things like do key changes that he would say, well, that's done in the correct manner.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd always had that extra. I couldn't think of anyone in Toronto who can play like him.
And On the Avenue, which is the first record I bought of yours, that was probably, I'm going to guess, that was your biggest budget recording of things that was released, because
at the time.
Because the amount of instrumentation on there, it's absolutely astounding.
Yeah, well, we were involved with a guy named Harvey Glatt.
Yeah, sure.
Out of Ottawa.
Yeah.
That was his company.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So, yeah, things like Nos Hablos Telefonos, that the arrangement of that and the amount of instruments.
I'm trying to find I know I have it at the top of a disc somewhere, what the German guys did with it.
A German release of that same album?
Yes.
Fascinating.
Not that album, that song.
Oh, that song, Nos Hablos.
Wow.
So a German band does your song, Nos Hablos, and they do an actual German version of it?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Now, have your songs been covered by many people?
No. The way I originally got involved with Bob Ezrin, I mean, that Nimbus 9 was looking after Mitch Ryder. And the Detroit Wheels, they were looking after Alice Cooper. They were looking after the Guess Who. I mean, they had real high-end shit. And I just wasn't that much of a performer. And I know then as now, the important thing to me is to make a good song. And that's all I care about.
It's always the first thing I would say about you if someone asks about you.
Yeah.
I'd say he is a songwriter. He writes really unique stuff, very catchy stuff, and the most diverse catalog of any singer or any writer I can think of.
Well,
Just on any one album.
That flattens me.
Say It Isn't So, right?
Yeah.
I can't express the fun it's been pissing in the wind. That is such a great lyric, but it's a beautiful, touching song.
It's a beautiful, touching song, and I'm using the profane to achieve something sublime.
Yep. Do you have
Said that.
a couple of favorite songs? Is there something that you wrote that you'd say, I want to play this first for somebody? Or do you have to love them all like your kids?
No. I can't choose. I can't do that.
Mhm.
I was trying to look at I do have a. You can have that.
Cool. Oh, I can see a few of these I don't own. I've got most of these records. Oh.
Yeah, well, there'd be a few.
Yeah. You know, I saw
I
saw
they're
this.
not mastered.
I saw this, and I was thinking about paperclip crepes from your song Punk Lunch.
That's part of the work I do for my long-suffering spouse, is help her with her data processing. Still, not actually on the machine anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
And it's just a process of addition. I remember complaining to some AA guy saying, shit, all I do is add. And the guy said, right, just be glad you're not subtracting.
That's positive.
Good.
Now, have you had any prognosis? Like, I love that you're thinking that there's a possibility you might come and play in April.
Yeah.
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 I love that.
I haven't, this disease thing is so odd. I was diagnosed in January a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've lived with nurses my entire life, I have a large medical section to my library. And I looked it up, and it said primary liver cancer, which it is. It's not it's not that common. But it between diagnosis and death is 6 months. You can't do anything. You can't radiate it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see the smoke signals in Saskatoon.
Right.
And you can't radiate it. And I mean, this is such a wonderful fucking country. As soon as I got diagnosed, I had a palliative care guy. I had a cardiologist because I had fallen in the street.
Mm-hmm.
One of the bonuses about spending as much time on the street as you can is that if you're going to have an accident,
You got people around to help you.
I regained consciousness sitting in the lap of an EMS worker going off shift. I had, no idea about what had just happened, but I knew I was bleeding, and they were loading me into an ambulance, and 3 minutes later, through the good graces of grace, I was still here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you say you love Canada. I mean, you have been looked after.
Fuck. I can't imagine. My mother really wanted to come here, and I'm so grateful.
Well, yeah, if you would have been in the U.S., you'd basically be out of everything.
I had to get rid of the other kidney.
Right.
So, I'm not... anybody, anytime says, fucking immigrants, I say, hey, buddy, we're all fucking immigrants in this hemisphere. If you take as truth that the First Nations walked across the land bridge at the Bering Straits, we're all fucking immigrants.
Right.
Let us be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm assuming, first of all, I'm glad to know that the prognosis is kind of wrong, because a year ago you had 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the other weird part. So I phoned my ex, Sarah and Morgan's mom, who I haven't slept with in 4 decades. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, Annie, I've been diagnosed with liver cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, oh. And then so she got diagnosed in June, and she was dead in December.
Whoa.
And the way it happened for her is the same way it happened for me. Her GP was changing. We had done the tests for the Hep C. We were supposed to go ahead and do something to have a cure for it. And nothing got done, and all of a sudden I have these days where I begin by vomiting. My worst symptoms, actually, vomiting. Can I get you something else to drink?
All good.
All good. Can I have a little... No, I always meant to tell you this, that you are an absolute pimp, but you are an absolutely sincere pimp.
Thank you.
I love that about you.
That's something that you and Mendelssohn Joe have in common. He has a song called Everybody Needs a Pimp. Mm-hmm. And he would say that. It's like, who's going to pimp me? I've got the stuff. Who's going to, if I don't have a pimp, I got no one to sell anything, because I'm just going to create, and I'm not going to run out there figuring out how to sell it.
No.
Yeah. With the amount of records you've made, do you have any idea, roundabout, like really guessing how many records you might have sold?
Oh, that's a hard one.
It is, because some sold hundreds, some sold thousands, right?
Mm-hmm. Some sold tens.
I would think, was On the Avenue the biggest seller? looking at the list here.
Mm. 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 Mm.
That's a boring mathematical
Rapture.
question.
Rapture.
Would have been the big one? Yeah. Love the songs on that. Happy with my hair. So while you are hanging here, and certainly at least until the spring, are you still writing music? You still writing songs? Something you pretty much have to do?
Every day. But sometimes I'll work, an hour and a half. Sometimes I'll work 8 minutes and say, this ain't going
Mm-hmm. But it's a thing you sit down to do. There's a type of discipline? It's just something that you feel?
No discipline.
Oh.
I just wander around and bump into it. And try to keep the house in reasonable order.
Do you notice I guess more with health issues than age, do you have different types of themes or things you want to write, or is it still anywhere?
Not really. I would like it to be able to go anywhere. And I do keep journals. The end of that second shelf is journals. But they're totally fucking indecipherable. I tell you, man.
Right, so there could be ideas of songs or little sketches of things.
Or even just a doggerel couplet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of my favorite writers is Jonathan Swift, and there's an interesting fact. Everybody who was considered a romantic poet would write most of their poetry before the age of 50. And he's the only one on record who wrote more after the age of 50.
Whoa.
But
Oh.
I think that also speaks to a condition he had called graphalalia.
Graphalalia, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and then you hang out with people like Tony Cornington, and they teach you all these big words. You get thinking, I am so fucking smart. But I think the last record that I bought, I mean, yeah, people get trapped in time frames. I know I certainly do. I mean, I'm listening to David Blues songs with the same kind of rapture that I did when I first encountered them.
Yeah.
It's when I was at the Free Times, I don't know when, it's got to be at least a decade ago. My friend Lee Bartell, I don't know if you know him, he's supportive of musicians and painters.
Mm-hmm.
Always has been. And he's a great guy. He had a house on Oxford Street in the market. He introduced me to Eric Anderson, and I remember the introduction very well. Anderson's pretty tall. He's wearing the same fucking pea jacket he was wearing in 1965. And I said, Mr. Anderson, I have enjoyed some of your lyric poetry over the years. How well did you know David Blue? Blue? He was just a junkie.
Oh, he's like one of your favorite guys, right?
Yeah. And I had meant to say, well, some of us feel compelled to wrestle with our better natures.
Mm-hmm.
And just because a person is a drug addict doesn't mean they're a bad poet.
Right.
It doesn't. It's crap. Absolute crap. I have... Yeah. All my heroes are junkies and drunks.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah. Did you have a theory for that?
And that is a, it seems to me as true as part of the human condition as the other things we need, like food, shelter, sex. But, to be able to change one's mind in the full meaning of that word, is that not, that's a human activity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to hearing the next song you write that you want to share. I look forward to it.
Well, I would be happy to share that with you, James. You have been so kind to me over the years that I am constantly grateful.
I have a great memory when you said free times. I forgot this. I took Greg Lake from Emerson, Lake and Palmer to see you at the free times. It was a really good set of music. You pulled out a lot of the cleverest, funniest stuff, and he was totally into it. I've lost count how many times I've seen you perform live. Easily, right? I mean, after all of these years. The first was at the Isabella Hotel, and I was 17, and I hitchhiked from North Bay. And I stayed in the hotel,
boy.
and the room next door, everyone, I had a deep voice. Everybody thought I was older.
Good.
And because I was 17 getting a hotel room, and there was some spanking and moaning in the next room.
Yeah.
So that was interesting for me being a kid from North Bay.
Yeah.
So I am going to let you smoke that and shake your hand and thank you for a very surreal interview. This is very new.
You have been. I'm sorry that I put you off so long. It's just, the health shit just wears at you a bit, and I did want to have a clean slate.
Absolutely.
And be able to focus on the questions you asked me.
Yep.
You deserved at least that. Now, I hope you like my library. That's fiction, basically, that Farwell. There was some sociology at the bottom left. All the stuff up here is it's history, and but non-British. That is British history, specifically London. And the one above my head is drugs and... no, not the one above my head. The one above the piano is drugs and art. These are all DVDs.
Movies.
DVDs.
Hey, let me ask you to say one thing into the camera.
Yeah.
Because you said
Where do I say it?
Here. You said if you could just give a Jaymz Bee is a pimp, but he's a sincere one, or however you want to say it.
I've known Mr. Jaymz Bee for many years. He has worked on behalf of Toronto musicians, Toronto artists. He has one of the most unusual approaches to music as an art, and he's a pimp, but he is a pimp of the first water. He is a sincere pimp.
Joe Hall, you gotta love that guy. Listen, if you are free tonight, and if you're hearing this Friday, May 17th, come on down to Transact Club and see Joe Hall. If you're not in Toronto or it's way past May 17th, look him up on YouTube, Joe Hall and the Continental Drift, and I know you'll be entertained. Come on back next week. Every Friday I have a special guest, and also I want to thank you if you have been supporting this from Patreon, and if you haven't, you could. Right up there. All right? Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.